Hello and welcome. Welcome into the Living Room Guitarists. Thanks for discovering us or perhaps rediscovering us. We're a brand new show here and looking to find an audience of fellow living room players. You know, the premise is simple, that most of us who play guitar, we play because we enjoy it. We enjoy the creative process, playing other people's songs, writing our own songs. We all have licks that we write, chord progressions, little, nuts and bolts of a song, unstructured kind of pieces that we don't know what to do with. And, we're not pros, we're not going to be stars, that's okay. We don't even have to be good players, however that's defined. We just like the creative process and making music and just hanging out. And that's what the show is all about. We're just getting together in the living room, sharing ideas, inspiring each other, collaborating, working on each other's songs, and helping each other just create and enjoy. Not for profit or celebrity. There are places to explore that if that's what you're into. This show is just about the joy of making music and just playing guitar and, digging out from the basement of our brain all the stuff that we've been playing over the years and all our kind of unfinished musical business, and just expressing ourselves. That's what it's all about. It's stress relief. It's good for the soul, right? So welcome into the Living Room Guitarist. I invite you to submit any of your living room material for consideration and collaboration with other fellow living room players here to livingroomguitarist@gmail.com. That's livingroomguitarist@gmail.com. If you hear something that inspires you on this show and you want to do something with it and submit it back, based on somebody else's stuff, and say, hey, why don't you think about this, or here's an idea for you, or whatever. That's what it's all about. Let's just kind of get together and create and enjoy playing guitar. And let's go. My name's Dan. I'm your host, and that's my role here. Again, this is a brand new show, so I'll do the first handful here by myself to kind of introduce the concept and get things moving here, but the plan is to have guests as often as possible. I do have a few lined up, so in future shows you'll see other people here sharing their living room material and submitting it for your consideration, so you can submit it back with your ideas and putting your spin on it, and we just write music together for the fun and joy of making music. So welcome in. So since, again, I'm by myself today, I'm going to share a little piece of something that I have. It's just kind of an unstructured sort of skeletal bit of a song, maybe. It's just some riffs here, but again, it's got a story behind it. So many things that we write, little songs or pieces of songs, that's got some sort of an impetus, right? We're having an experience, or just our head's in a certain place. So I was on a trip. I actually was on a train, one of those overnight train trips between Philadelphia going to Birmingham, Alabama to visit a friend. And it was a nice overnight train trip. I got myself in one of those little private sleeping cars. It's got it's a little mini bedroom and bathroom there with a door. And you just hanging out and watch the country go by and relaxing. But, 26 hours on a train, it gets boring sometimes. After a while, I had exhausted my iPod playlists, and I had nothing to do. So I just grabbed my guitar and just waited for inspiration to strike, just noodling around like we often do. And then we just see if we can discover something. So I call this going to Alabama. Just, you have to call it something, but it doesn't really matter what you call it. It's just a little riff, and I submit it for your consideration to see if there's anything in it that maybe you can take and do something with and submit it back and say, hey, maybe we could build it into this or take it in this direction, or maybe you want to play it on electric guitar, or whatever ideas that come to mind. It sort of goes with, if you ever heard the story about how Barry Gibb just started the idea of their Bee Gees song Jive Talking years ago, where that little opening where he's just muting all the strings and something to that effect. But so at the time I was playing with just some open chords and string muting and things like that. So I started on this D down here on the 10th fret, and I went up to the 14th fret, 4th string down with my pinky and just hitting that A note. And then the open D string here, 3rd string down, as I mute the A. So just playing those 3 strings. And I just kind of did that sort of Bee Gees jive talking kind of riff there, where I'm just going. That was just the sound of the train going by, and we're just moving along the countryside, watching the world go by. But so I was just kind of messing with this little, and just seeing what I could develop with it, just moving it around. But the thing I discovered was just leaving this D open and muting that A and just playing it. And then you can move it around, 11th fret, 12th fret, for that higher note. mess with it and just see what sounds good, but it all kind of comes from here. Back it up to here maybe. Just walk it up. I was thinking of transitioning to something else from there, and I don't know if these two pieces fit together. Again, it's just a kind of an unstructured little jam, but somewhere within that, I want to make a transition. Maybe start up here. So I'm on 10th fret, and then back up here to the 7th fret, 2nd string down. Just, well, I'm not muting it, but it's just, but I'm still doing the kind of the same strumming pattern. Up here, and I start playing more strings. I'm not muting anymore, so again I'm 10th fret and 7th fret here, 1st string, 2nd string, and just kind of doing that same, maybe involve that D a little bit, and walk that up, and then hammer on. So I've got both strings now on the 10th fret, those top 2 strings. Start involving more strings, and then I just lift my ring finger off, so it's just that D and with the A underneath, so it's going to be, and I back up to the A, right, that 5th fret, and I play that as I mute this, and then 2nd fret, 3rd fret. To a D, so I'm just going to kind of hammer right there onto it, not a full D, I'm not going to use that bottom string, but here. So a traditional D would be, right, but I don't hit that low, that higher note there, so I'm just going to move from, so that's the note, the chord there. I just go and I use thumb over on that 2nd fret there. So from there, from that little riff down here, and I go right into this D. Like a kind of a rockabilly sort of vibe to it by this point, but it's just this D chord, but without using that higher string there. It's just I don't go that low, but I use the bass note here from the F sharp, G, and this is the pattern. Sound like going to Alabama, right? You can do that a few times, and then I move it down here. So 9th fret and 10th fret, and it's just that little chord, a variation of it. And then back it off here, so it's, and then back here. So it sounds like this. Down to the 7th fret, 2nd and 3rd string up. It's just those two, just a kind of a variation on a chord here. And then I back it off here, 5th fret, 6th fret, and then 3rd fret, 4th fret, and then back to that D. So it's going to sound like this. So back from that transition point, where I'm just, again, this is the part that you can figure out and help me kind of develop it maybe. different voicing of a D. So I come down here to the 7th fret, just on the 2 middle strings, that's a D. And then I go up here, 5th fret, 7th fret, and then back that index finger off to the 4th fret. Okay, so everything is just kind of based on this, right? The bass note here, the D, the bass note here, the D. Okay, so coming back. I just, use those same other chords in a different way. So I come back to the 5th fret, 6th fret, and I just do a quick little hammer on to the 7th fret with both those. So it's, and then I'm going to be lifting off, coming back to the 3rd and 4th fret, pull off, D. So it sounds kind of like this. All right, so I start here, I go to the 5th and 6th fret, hammer on to the 7th, so at speed it sounds like this. And then if you want, you go back to this lick. So it's just, again, very raw, uncut, sort of. But if you are inspired, just, whatever, if you hear something like, yeah, hey, how about this idea? You've got your own creative spark. Let it fly. If it speaks to you in any way, and let's see what we can develop with it. And that's what this show's all about. In the Living Room Guitarist, we just share ideas back and forth and just take the stuff out of our brain and off our fretboards and into the world of our living room. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll play this out as we go, and we'll see you next time in the Living Room Guitarist. Thanks for coming and joining us today.